The underdog is cool. You keep shouting out that name. That name is an enemy. And I told you he's an enemy. And you're going to keep shouting him out, not realizing you go there, you're dead, because he dead.
And then you're talking about, I don't want to, name specific names. Talking about
Cemetery Larry, he in the cemetery.
Cemetery Larry, I like that.
Cemetery. I had his raise. I got his raise right in the pocket. Now I got to give it to somebody else. Now I got to give everything he worked for. I got to give it to somebody else because the person he went with, he got to that shit. Time slot from him.
Okay.
Because they're not going to want to compete. Now they fired. Like, so, you know what I mean? Like, they fired. You know what I mean? Like, what his loyalty was.
Was there anything specifically, you said Rashad specifically, was there anything that he specifically did that let you know,
Yes.
like, I really can't?
He kept shouting out the dude's name that was tanking our show.
Cemetery Larry.
Yeah, like, the dude didn't do nothing for you, dog. Your deal was done before he got here. First of all, real talk, he tried to fire you at the beginning of the season. He tried to fire you at the beginning of the season. That's why they was trying to, like, Skip was getting paid for 4 days. He was only there 3. One was going to be our show. And that was to replace him because they both contrarian. They both go against it. But they said Skip does it better. He don't cuss. He don't drop the N-bomb every other hour. So they're looking for these sponsors. So they're trying to fire you. Me and Joe standing on 10 toes. Nah, we good. We're good with our roster. We're number 1 with our roster. Right? So what they did is like, all right, well, Joe and Gil ain't breaking. Hey, Rashad, you want to go to the football? Yeah, come on, football on Friday. Yeah, do a little football. So you're going to jump on the football. Then they're like, hey, can Skip come on the show with you? We could do that on Friday too. Then they do an episode with Skip on Friday. And he's like, oh man, me and Skip. And so they did that to him.
Right.
But I'm like, yo, dude never did anything. Why are you going with dude? I told you we had beef and we had war. He's trying to take over Gils Arena. So you giving him shout outs, 3 of them. I told you we beefing with him.
Gilbert Arenas has officially thrown more fuel on the already blazing Gils Arena controversy, and now Rashad McCants is making it clear he's not letting Gilbert's version of the story go unchallenged. After his appearance on Carmelo Anthony's 7 p.m. in Brooklyn podcast, Gilbert opened up about what he claims really happened behind the scenes during the Underdog fallout, including his relationship with Rashad, explaining that he believes he'd warned people about problems brewing internally and that some cast members ultimately ended up backing the wrong side once things started falling apart. Rashad, unsurprisingly, wasn't thrilled with that framing. Shortly after clips from the interview started making the rounds online, he clapped back, essentially saying, bring him onto the show, and if it sounds like a lie, then it's a lie. He's got receipts. He even teased the possibility of a Netflix-style documentary while accusing Gilbert of trying to tarnish his name with claims he insists aren't true. That's a significant response, because Rashad isn't just pushing back on Gilbert's version, he's implying Gilbert left out key context and that he has actual evidence to back up his own account. And here's where it gets particularly interesting. According to Gilbert, Rashad already knew issues were brewing behind the scenes at Underdog long before any of it went public. Gilbert claims he personally warned him that changes were coming and that internal problems were threatening the show's future. If that's accurate, it's easier to understand why Gilbert felt betrayed watching Rashad publicly align with people Gilbert believed were working against him. Rashad, on the other hand, clearly thinks there's a lot more to this story than what Gilbert let on, and he seems fully prepared to tell his side of it. Now everyone's waiting to see whether those receipts he keeps mentioning actually surface. If he's got something that contradicts Gilbert's timeline or claims, this whole story could take yet another turn. Right now, we're left with 2 competing narratives. Gilbert's given his account, Rashad says he can prove otherwise, and everyone watching is stuck trying to piece together where the truth actually sits. On top of that, there are still other voices we haven't heard from. Brandon Jennings hasn't publicly weighed in on anything Gilbert said, and Kenyon Martin has his own perspective as someone who was part of the show. Both were close enough to the situation that whatever they eventually share could add real context. And honestly, as for Skip Bayless, I genuinely have no idea what he's up to these days. To be completely transparent, I've never been all that invested in Skip's role in this whole thing. I know not everyone agreed with me last time I said this, but I stand by it. Skip Bayless isn't someone most viewers are tuning in to watch carry a show on his own. That's just my honest take. There's no taking away from what Skip's accomplished. He's one of the most recognizable figures in sports media and has built a legendary career over decades. Nobody can dispute that. But Gils Arena was never built around a single personality. Its biggest strength was always the group chemistry, the back and forth, the debates, the trash talk, the jokes, all those different personalities bouncing off each other. Realistically, most people weren't tuning in to hear one guy talk uninterrupted for hours. They were watching for the interplay between the whole cast. Even during Skip's run on Undisputed, the format worked because there was always someone across the table pushing back on him. First Shannon Sharpe, then others. The debate itself was the draw. That's why I've always maintained Skip performs best with someone opposite him. He thrives in that dynamic, and that's not a knock on him, just an observation about the format that's carried his career. I get why Skip entered this conversation at all. Skip and Gilbert are genuinely close outside the show. They golf together, and by most accounts, they get along great personally. So I'm not saying Skip added nothing or shouldn't have been part of it. What I am saying is that fans fell for Gils Arena because of the full group. Gilbert, Rashad, Brandon, Kenyon, Nick Young, and everyone else who fed into that chemistry. That combination was the product. The personalities were the product. The debates, the friendships, the rivalries, all of it was the product. So naturally, whenever pieces start getting pulled out of that formula, people notice. And that ties into the bigger point I keep coming back to on the business side of this. When you see a show that's clearly working, pulling in a growing audience and building real momentum, and then suddenly its schedule drops from several episodes a week down to just 2, it's fair to ask what actually changed. I understand every business has to manage budgets. Budget costs, sponsorship deals, salaries, long-term planning all factor in, and I'm not claiming to know every financial detail behind these decisions. If the numbers genuinely stopped working, adjustments might have been unavoidable. That's just part of running a business. But when a show is visibly growing, fans are asking for more, and it's becoming one of the biggest basketball shows online, it's reasonable for people to question why the response was to scale back instead of expand. Then more reports start coming out. The schedule shrinks, the structure shifts, new personalities get added, and the original cast is asked to adjust to a different direction. At some point, it's fair to wonder whether the people calling those shots actually understood what made the show work in the first place. Companies naturally look at things through a business lens. Budgets, contracts, sponsorships, growth, revenue, that's their job. But sometimes, in trying to improve the business, they end up messing with the very thing that built the audience to begin with. That's part of why this whole situation reminds me of what went down between Joe Budden and Complex. I'm not saying the two situations are identical, because they're not, but both raise questions about scaling a successful brand, creating new revenue streams, and figuring out how to fairly compensate the people who actually built that success if they're being asked to take on more. Those conversations get complicated fast. When creators feel they're the reason the audience exists, and the company feels entitled to reshape the business anyway, friction is almost guaranteed. That's just how business tends to go. And again, I want to be upfront. I'm commenting on all of this from the outside, based purely on the information available. I wasn't in the negotiations, wasn't in the meetings, wasn't part of the private conversations or group chats. Like everyone else, I'm just looking at the information available and trying to make sense of it as this story keeps unfolding.